I think this is the language of gundas in the street, not of national leaders. And very certainly it serves no purpose except to appeal to the lowest common denominator among your own voters. And that seems to be the motive in all this posturing and all the rhetoric and the kind of projection you see in the more pliant elements of the media and on social media. So what will actually be done? I do hope that the government's pronouncements give us no indication of what is actually being planned. Because what needs to be done and what is being planned or should be planned, I don't know what is being planned, but what should be planned must be absolutely secret. To my mind, it should not be a one-off strike of any nature. It would serve no purpose, however many people you may be able to target or whatever physical targets you may be able to annihilate. It would serve no long-term purpose. This is not a conflict that started yesterday and will, by slapping the adversary once, come to an end. I think that was among the many, the five measures
Right.
announced. That was probably the most promising. That does not mean it's going to have any immediate impact.
Right.
Diluting the water flows or reducing the water flows to Pakistan, even by a small margin, even by the margin of what is our own right of use, will take many years. 2/3 of all intelligence reports are in the, I would say, are in the form of covering your own bottoms, to use relatively civilized language. In other words, they will have all these sweeping generalizations. There may be an attack on tourists, there may be an attack on this, there may be an attack on that. And when an attack actually takes place at one of the designated targets, of the mentioned places, they pull those lines out and say, oh, but we said there may be an attack on a political leader. The question to be asked is, was there actionable intelligence? And your question must be asked, was the security assessment objective in terms of the recorded history?
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. It's 10 days into the Pahalgam terror incident, and we still do not know who are the actual perpetrators, though the investigating agencies are striving hard to find out where these perpetrators are. Now, expectations are mounting for a retaliatory strike after this incident has happened, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reportedly also given a free hand to the armed forces for operational freedom to decide the timing, the targets, and the method of response against Pakistan. But the biggest question is that, is the approach taken by the current government correct? Is it for the long term benefit of the Kashmir and for the country? Or is it just for the electoral compulsions that India wants to go in for a retaliatory strike? From the perspective of countering terrorism, is the government taking the right steps? We need to understand all this and much more. Joining me now this evening is a very special guest, a renowned security expert, someone who's worked on counter-terrorism as well. Joins us, Ajai Sahni joins us this evening. Thank you so much, sir, for joining on HW. And it's very, very important to talk to you on a subject like this to really understand whether the Indian government is taking the right steps in the right direction. So my first question to you is that it's 10 days into the incident, and the government has been talking about a military strike, and in different languages and in different tone and tenor, we've been hearing one refrain: चुन चुन के हम मारेंगे, हम पाताल लोक में पहुंच जाएंगे, हम पाकिस्तान को पृथ्वी से मिटा देंगे. Now, this is the kind of language and the tone and tenor which we have heard. So, does this kind of a language give a serious indication of the fact that India will go in for a military strike? And if they are going for a military strike, is that the right approach?
First, to take up the issue of the language, I think this is the language of gundas in the street, not of national leaders. And very certainly it serves no purpose except to appeal to the lowest common denominator among your own voters. And that seems to be the motive in all this posturing and all the rhetoric and the kind of projection you see in the more pliant elements of the media and on social media. The whole idea is to whip up a frenzy of, on the one hand, vengeful anger, uh, and then create a shall we say, backdrop for a single theatrical event, something like the surgical strikes of Balakot, which will have absolutely no impact on the trajectory of terrorism, but which will allow the current dispensation, the leadership of the current government, to go back to the public and say, we have achieved something extraordinary which has never been done before. It will have absolutely no impact on the trajectory of terrorism. As far as what will actually be done, I do hope that the government's pronouncements give us no indication of what is actually being planned. Because what needs to be done and what is being planned or should be planned, I don't know what is being planned, but what should be planned must be absolutely secret. To my mind, it should not be a one-off strike of any nature. It would serve no purpose, however many people you may be able to target or whatever physical targets you may be able to annihilate. It would serve no long-term purpose. This is not a conflict that started yesterday and will, by slapping the adversary once, come to an end. This is a 35-year-old terrorist movement. It is a 78-year-old conflict from the moment of the birth of Pakistan. So we need a far more sustained, enduring strategy within the framework of what is called protracted conflict, where we target the strengths and expand the vulnerabilities of the adversary system. This requires not just military means. In fact, it does not require explicitly military means. If any kinetic means are to be employed, they must be covert. More importantly, the most effective instrumentalities are non-kinetic or indirectly kinetic. This can include targeting the economy, targeting the political system in Pakistan, fanning the conflicts in Pakistan, using cyber instrumentalities against Pakistan. All these factors come in. And most importantly, they don't come in the context of the Pahalgam massacre.
Right. No, so in that
Because
context,
it can't be a 10-day response. It can't be a
right.
20-day response. If it is
No,
not
but
sustained over the years. Yeah, please.
no, but from what you've just said, suspending the Indus Water Treaty, was that a right step in the right direction?
I think that was among the many, the five measures
Right.
announced. That was probably the most promising. That does not mean it's going to have any immediate impact.
Right.
Diluting the water flows or reducing the water flows to Pakistan, even by a small margin, even by the margin of what is our own right of use, will take many years.
Yeah.
But if and when it is actually implemented,
No, but
it would have the greatest possible potential impact.
No, so then it will mean that these are just symbolic measures, whether it is the downscaling of the high commissions, whether it is closing down of the Atari border, or whether it is suspending the Indus Water Treaty. These are all mere symbolic measures for now.
For now, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The only reason why I single out, or you mentioned the Indus Waters Treaty, is that it is the one move that, if actually acted upon over the years, would have real impact on Pakistan's system. A systemic impact. It would undermine important elements of their agriculture, of their water supplies, consequently of their political systems, of the strife and conflicts within the country. Water conflicts are the conflicts of the future. So even if you are managing to reduce the current water flows into Pakistan by 4 and 5%, you enormously aggravate the already 30% water deficit Pakistan is experiencing. So potentially, but only potentially, if they withdraw or they say, all right, we go back to the Indus Water Treaty or we will have an Indus Water Treaty renegotiation, then I'm afraid this is also just purely symbolic. Right. If it is acted upon over the years and decades, then it is meaningful.
But so, where do you think that the government has gone wrong? Because people are talking about a serious security lapse and intelligence failure. Uh, where do you think that the government went wrong? Because all the claims made of normalcy, that after the abrogation of Article 370, Kashmir looks absolutely normal, and then you here have an incident like Pahalgam.
The claims were wrong. First of all, when you open out to tourism at this scale, my question is, did this government take the security forces into confidence? Did the security forces say, yes, you can do this? I am fairly confident that is not the case. The security forces would not have said, yes, we can protect every inch of Kashmiri soil from any potential terrorist act, which means that the government decision on tourism or on promoting open tourism at this scale in Jammu and Kashmir would not have been backed by by an objective security assessment. That's where they go wrong. Now you said, was there intelligence failure? Was there security failure in Pahalgam? After an incident of this nature occurs, every incident is an intelligence failure or a security failure. But you must also understand that security deployments are made under certain circumstances. One is an objective assessment of threat. Now, if no incident has taken place in a particular theater or area or region for decades, you are not going to saturate it with force. You will automatically, because you have a limited force, you have to deploy it in areas of perceived high threat. So there will be vulnerabilities. And the adversary will find vulnerabilities. One day they will find it in Jammu, then they will find it in Pahalgam, then they will find it somewhere else. You will now saturate tourist areas. They will find some isolated village somewhere and go and slaughter. They don't care who they are killing. They will go and slaughter 20 people there. Please understand, where the security forces are given a clear mandate. Look at the Amarnath Yatra. Such a massive movement of humanity. And nothing is happening year after year after year. So, if you give the security forces a clear and limited mandate, it cannot be a generalized mandate, zero terrorism. That is foolish talk. I'm sorry to use language of this nature, but that is foolish talk. You cannot have zero terrorism anywhere in the world. The most stable societies of the world have suffered from terrorist attacks.
No, so which means that there was no intimation of any sort for Pahalgam, and that was a pocket which the terrorists must have found fertile because there is no security presence, and they worked accordingly. So,
Yes, I mean, look, there was no indication. Now, I read a few reports where they said, oh, intelligence had been provided. And we had some intelligence that something could happen. Let me tell you, 2/3 of all intelligence reports are in the, I would say, are in the form of covering your own bottoms, to use relatively civilized language. In other words, they will have all these sweeping generalizations. There may be an attack on tourists. There may be an attack on this. There may be an attack on that. And when an attack actually takes place at one of the designated targets, of the mentioned places, they pull those lines out and say, oh, but we said there may be an attack on a political leader. Meaningless. The question to be asked is, was there actionable intelligence? And your question must be asked, was the security assessment objective in terms of the recorded history? Now, by and large, there is this unspoken compact between the terrorist groups and the population that the tourist industry will not be harmed. This is not an unbroken rule. We have documented from 2000 to the present 44 fatalities, excluding the Pahalgam fatalities. So actually 70 fatalities in total, specifically targeting tourists. So this is not an inviolable rule, but it is a fairly well-established presumption, rule, whatever you would like to call it. Now, that rule has collapsed with this one incident. There have been incidents in the past, as I said. Last year in Pahalgam itself, you had a couple murdered, tourist couple murdered from Jaipur. So it's not as if it's never happened before, but it's never happened at this scale before. Now, the second thing you must ask yourself is, When terrorists are sent out for an operation, do they say we will kill at least 30 people over here? No. They go into an operation saying we will kill the maximum number of people possible. They may end up killing 2, they may end up killing 26, they may end up killing 50, or they may end up just being killed themselves. I will take a comparable case, the Riyasi bus attack.
Yeah.
Now that bus rolled into the khud after the first volley was fired. Only 2 people were actually killed because of bullet injuries. Another 7 people died because of injuries sustained in the bus rolling into the khud. Now, if the bus hadn't rolled into the khud, if it had come to a standstill after the first, that may have been all the people, more than 50, I think roughly 50 odd people in the bus. All of them would have been slaughtered. They were all Hindu pilgrims. All of them would have been slaughtered. And that would have been a much bigger incident than Riyasi. So this whole idea that, 26 people have been killed, as if that was a fully formed plan that emerged from a particular failure of the government, that's not how it happens. That's not how terrorism happens. Terrorism happens because the handlers, the controllers in Pakistan say, go out, do a incident, and then they are not being able to find any soft targets, except
No, but
the tourist. Yeah, please.
no, what I'm saying is that, whenever a terror attack happens or Pakistan strikes, with an attack, the only approach which the present government has been taken is that, okay, we'll go in for a strike. Now, as you said, that military strike is actually not the solution. But where is the government going wrong? They say that terror and talk with Pakistan is not possible, so there is no dialogue. There is a complete suspension of any kind of political engagement. Then we are also doing these measures like suspending the Indus Water Treaty, closing down the borders. But is it going to actually bring down the terrorism in Kashmir? Why is the government not thinking and strategizing from that point of view, that in the long run, you completely nullify any kind of terrorism from Kashmir? Is that not what something the government should be working around? And the government is the first one to say that, look, Manmohan Singh government was very soft on terror. What is the present government doing except for saying that hum muh tod jawab dete hain, we have a muscular approach towards everything, we are not soft on terror?
No, I'm glad you mentioned Manmohan Singh. Now, here is a prime minister who everybody apparently says was a weak prime minister. He was soft on terror. And yet, when he came to power, in the year he came to power, almost 3,000 people, the year preceding his ascension to power, almost 3,000 people were killed in Jammu and Kashmir. By 2012, under this soft and weak government, fatalities had been brought down to 121, which is a better figure than any figure in the 11 years of this government's power. They have still not been able to bring terrorism down to terrorism-linked fatalities down to 121. Last year they came to 127. That's still not 121. Number two, the whole idea that, we must have zero terrorism or we are a complete failure. This is another completely nonsensical assessment. This is a theater of enduring, of protracted conflict. 35 years of terrorism, in which 16 years were high-intensity terrorism, which means each year had more than 1,000 people killed. 4 years of terrorism in which more than 3,000 people were killed every year. Today, we are in a situation where we brought the numbers down to 127. If you ask me, that is normalcy. It is not the normalcy of Delhi. It is not the normalcy of Pondicherry. It is not the normalcy of Tamil Nadu, but it is the normalcy of Jammu Kashmir, which is a theater of enduring conflict. If you see, the problem is that over here, we are not at all between us talking about security assessments. We are talking about political postures. And political posturing has got nothing to do with the realities of the ground. It has nothing to do with action that would actually produce results in the national security interest. It is something that is, we'll have a surgical strike, or we'll have a air strike, or we'll have a missile strike across the border. It's something I can take to the lowest common denominator of my voters, among my voters. It is tamasha. It is posturing. It will have no impact whatsoever on national security. The only impact on national security can be achieved through sustained strategies that are defined to inflict harm sustained harm on Pakistan's systems. Not, oh, let's kill 3 people over here or there. Even if they go in for a foolish, a lot of people are talking about targeting the generals. I think let's bump off of, one of the very, very prominent commentators said, let's bump off a few generals. You bump off a few generals, they perhaps will bump off a few of yours as well. I mean, they're going to take that action. But there will be no end to that, or perhaps there'll be an end to that. We'll both go and talk to each other covertly and say, look, let's keep the generals out of this. But it would have no impact on the trajectory of terrorism, please.
Right. No, I'm saying, Mrs. Sahni, that if you use other instrumentalities, like what you pointed out, that maybe a cyber attack or maybe other measures apart from other than military strike, what is the guarantee that Pakistan will not strike back again in Kashmir?
The guarantee is relative power. And the guarantee is the fact that they're already trying to do everything that they can, whereas we are not. The guarantee is that Pakistan has a strategy and we don't have one. That's the guarantee. They're already trying to do harm to you by every means possible. India today is among the, in terms of cyber attacks, one of the most attacked countries in the world. And an overwhelming proportion of the attacks come from Pakistan or from China, which is Pakistan's ally in this enterprise.
And we don't have a strategy.
We don't have a strategy except retaliate. Except nowadays they're saying, oh, there are more attacks coming from Pakistan. So we have also started attacking Pakistan. With what? Foolish phishing cyber attacks. Silly little defacing of a website, suspension of access to a website. That's nothing. Unless those attacks are able to disrupt their infrastructure, destroy something, a capability on the other side. These attacks are nothing. You can say, oh, there have been 10 lakh attacks on that side.
Why are we not able to do it? Why are we not able to do it, Mr. Sahni? Do we not have the competence? Do we lack the bandwidth? What is it? Or it's a lack of political will? Though the government keeps claiming that, no, we will retaliate back, but they cannot think from this point of view.
It is a lack of attention span on the government, on the part of the political executive. If you task the agencies to do this, they will do it. They will take 1 year, they will take 3 years. I don't know. That's a question of where they are today and where they need to go. It may take 5 years. But those capabilities will be created if the mandate and the resources are provided. The problem is, governments today cannot think beyond one election to the next. And elections don't happen in every 5 years. Elections happen every 3 months.
Yes.
There will be local elections, there will be state elections, then there'll be a national election, there will be municipal elections. And the whole attention of the top leadership is directed, of the national leadership, is directed towards municipal elections. So if you have that orientation, and I don't have a problem with that orientation, you must win elections. I mean, if you don't have power, you can do nothing. But there must be a hard core of government, which is fixed on
the cost of winning elections at the cost of national security and long-term strategies which should be planned for areas like Kashmir.
That is precisely what I'm saying. You must have a hard core of your attention and of your abilities and your resources dedicated to a clearly defined strategy, which is maintained over the years and decades. Not something that you switch on and off after one little bombing somewhere or one little incident somewhere else. That's going to achieve nothing. And then you're going to sit there and say, oh, but why is nothing happening to Pakistan? Nothing's going to happen to Pakistan with 20 people killed here or 50 people killed there. I mean, they're losing thousands of people every year in their own internal strife to the Baloch insurgency and to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Why will they care if you have gone and bombed somewhere, someplace where 20 or 30 people have been killed? Those people don't count.
But you have leaders like Mr. Subramanian Swamy also saying that, the only option is that strike back at Pakistan, disintegrate into 4 parts, and then those 4 parts, and then own it up. So is that also a solution like Dr. Swamy talks about?
Why don't we go one step ahead and conquer the whole of the world? I mean, can you just wake up one morning and break Pakistan into 4 parts? Do you have the capacity and capability? Are you going to do it by next weekend? Are you talking strategy, or are you talking nonsense? And if we really have to, neutralize an enemy, why stop at Pakistan? Why don't we overrun China?
Absolutely.
Since we are talking about dreamscapes, let's dream big. Why stop at Pakistan? You can't. You have to talk about these things in realistic terms, not this foolish wishful thinking. हम ये कर देंगे, हम वो कर देंगे, कुछ नहीं कर सकते. और करना है तो उसके लिए, if you are to do something, you have to commit resources. You can't keep cutting your armies down. You can't keep cutting your resources to the armed forces down and then say we will become a great power, great military power.
I'm sure the National Security Advisor, including the Home Minister and the Prime Minister, do understand the capabilities, their military capabilities. But even then, they will keep talking like chun chun ke marunga, patal lok mein ghuskar marunga, or Pakistan ko prithvi se uda dunga. Whom are they talking to? Are they talking to Pakistan, or are they trying to placate their own voters?
It's their own voters. It's the lack of an attention span. It is their priorities, which are just electoral politics and not national security. And it is a conversation to the domestic political audience. It is not a conversation between India and Pakistan. And it is certainly not a strategic conversation within the national security apparatus.
No, but does it, has this Pahalgam incident again exposed all the claims made by the government that, look, we are there for national security, we are there to answer back Pakistan in all possible ways? All those lies, it seems, have been nailed now because the government is exposed. It doesn't have a strategy, as you said. It lacks a complete failure as far as the intelligence agencies are concerned. There was no actionable intelligence. So have we failed as a nation in tackling terrorism in Kashmir?
Have the lies of the government been exposed? Do you watch television? Have you seen what they are projecting? We've been able to go and destroy 10. No.
That's why we like you to talk the truth.
Who's listening to me? It doesn't matter. These are voices in the wind. They don't count. What counts is that I have told my entire population that, look, I've knocked down 10 houses of these evil Mussalmans in Kashmir. And that is running on a loop on every TV channel. I have already got a victory. And it satisfies the atavistic sentiments of the largest proportion of the population. It's an electoral democracy. Majorities matter. I have already spoken to the majority. So it doesn't matter whether this is a real solution or not. Now, let's get one thing very clear. And this is something everybody misses out after a major incident occurs. Every time a major incident occurs, we start breastbeating, oh, what has happened? Kashmir is out of control. This has happened, that has happened. I've repeatedly told you about the numbers, where we have come from and where we are today. You must understand, we are winning this conflict. Pakistan is losing this conflict. Pakistan has done infinitely more harm to itself as compared to the harm it has done to us. Our economy is much stronger. I don't agree with a lot of the economic pretensions and great power nonsense that we keep talking. But our economy is in reasonable health. Pakistan's economy is in terminal ill health. Their polity is in terminal ill health. The only institution that had unquestioned power in Pakistan, the army, is today in a situation of its lowest credibility among the people. So please, in all our victimhood and our breastbeating, please reiterate one thing, that the conflict in Kashmir has gone substantially in our favor. The victory is not complete, but we are very definitely winning. This needs to be repeatedly emphasized, irrespective of the occasional and terrible tragedy that these foolish people on the other side of the border keep on engineering, thinking that somehow or the other it will catalyze some great conflagration in India. Terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir is over. It's not over in the sense that no terrorist act can occur. As I said before, zero terrorism is a foolish notion. But it is over in the sense that it can actually pressure the government into changing its policy or into ceding Kashmir. And that's just not even within the realm of the possibility of possible of the possible. And this is something we should hold in our minds every time. And there will be other times, believe me, this is not the last time a major terrorist strike occurs in Jammu Kashmir. But every time a terrorist strike occurs, we have to stop saying, oh, but what is the strategy? There is no strategy. Therefore, this thing has carried on for 35 years. Frame a strategy, hold your attention to it. The whole of government does not have to sit every day on that strategy. It has to be clearly defined. The forces and the agencies have to be mandated to pursue that strategy and resourced to pursue that strategy. And then you can go around doing your political tamasha wherever you want. You can do whatever you want. The rest of it, the what we call normal life in this country will continue. But there is a core that is committed to A, B, C, and D. That's it. 4 objectives that we are to achieve against Pakistan. Here are the resources. This is your mandate. Go and do it. Believe me, we have people in this country who will achieve those objectives.
I hope the government watches this interview, and I'm sure the mainstream media would not like to hear these truthful maxims which you have just shared it with us. But it was such an insightful interview, and to talk to you, it was really a pleasure. Thank you so much, Mr. Sahni, for joining on HW. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.